Hello, welcome to RT Magazine, a show about Middletown High School, its students, and the community. News about you and for you. I'm Baron Ropp, and this week's show is brought to you by
Shockley Honda, located across from Westview on Route 85.
In this week's episode, Angela Ocampo fills us in on FCPS Covid policies, Erin Smith shows athletes' opinions on the various vaccine mandates within sports, and Lauren Walker gives us an inside look into the FFA Gingerbread House contest. But first, let's go to Grant Baker with a wrap-up of what happened last week in national news.
In news, Italy has made COVID vaccinations mandatory for people over the age of 50. This mandate came as the country reached a record 189,000 infections over the past 24 hours. From now on, anybody 50 or older will be checked to see if they have a, quote, super green pass, unquote, before they enter their workplace. Former President Donald Trump announced on January 4th that he would cancel his planned January 6th press conference. Trump was expected to talk about his claim and election fraud. The press conference was supposed to be held at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida. Some drivers in Virginia were stranded on I-95 for more than 24 hours straight last week due to heavy snow. Many drivers ran out of gas in the freezing temperatures and didn't have food or water. A local bakery truck that was also stuck handed out loaves of bread to the stranded truck drivers in the traffic jam. After almost 2 days of blockage, all cars were finally removed from the road. Now let's go to Noel Body with the wrap-up of what's been happening in entertainment news.
Thanks, Grant. In the world of entertainment, culture, and celebrity, Kim Kardashian unfollowed singer Miley Cyrus after Pete Davidson's New Year's Eve special. Davidson and Kardashian are rumored to have a relationship after being seen holding hands at an amusement park. Cyrus co-hosted alongside Davidson and appeared with him on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Artist Jason Derulo got into a physical confrontation with two young men in Las Vegas after one of them cursed at him and made comparisons of him to Usher. Derulo was placed in handcuffs and removed from the property. No charges were filed. Betty White died on December 31st at the grand old age of 99. She was an American actress best known for her roles on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and The Golden Girls. Now to Jack Schmiel with our sports news.
Thanks, Noel. In the world of sports, Tampa Bay Buccaneers player Antonio Brown walked off the field midway into the third quarter on the January 2nd game against the New York Jets. He claims that he was pressured to play even though he didn't feel healthy enough. Brown may not ever be returning to the NFL after this incident, among others in the past. John Madden died on December 28th at age 85. Madden was a football coach for the Raiders from 1969 to 1978. Also, he was a sports commentator in the National Football League, and the video game franchise Madden is named after him. The Dallas Mavericks retired the number 41 in honor of Dirk Nowitzki, who played for the Mavericks for 21 years, leading them to 15 playoff appearances and a championship in 2011. He is widely considered the most noteworthy player in franchise history. Now to RT Magazine.
In the age of COVID, the recommendations by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention have continued to shift. As a result, school districts across the country, including FCPS, have continued to shift their policies as well. In our first segment, RT reporter Angela Ocampo informs us on the updated COVID procedures made by FCPS.
Frederick County Public Schools have opened at full capacity for the 2021 to 2022 school year. Because of this, there have been procedures that have been put in place for those in contact with COVID-19. Since the beginning of the school year, the original procedures have been altered in accordance with the virus. FCPS believes that this decision, quote, balances our goal of minimizing disruption to instruction while also minimizing the spread of COVID-19. The decision will reduce the number of students who are being required to quarantine, unquote. Students were originally considered close contact if they were within 3 feet of an infected individual for 15 minutes or longer.
So if a person is identified as a close contact, which is within 3 feet for 15 minutes or longer,
students will only be identified as a close contact of another student who has tested positive if they are unmasked within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. If someone is identified as a close contact but is vaccinated and asymptomatic, they are not required to go home.
If that student has been fully vaccinated and they're not showing any symptoms, they are permitted to remain in school, and there's no requirement for them to get tested.
If someone is unvaccinated and exposed, they are required to be sent home.
If they are unvaccinated, we notify them that they need to go home. We tell them the date that they had been last exposed. Their quarantine time starts the day following exposure.
Regardless of vaccination status, all individuals inside of FCPS buildings are required to wear masks. As of January 3rd, there have been 66 positive student cases and 3 reported staff cases at Middletown High School. All of this information is posted and can be found on fcps.org under the Frederick County Public Schools Health Metrics Dashboard.
One of the areas heavily impacted by the FCPS COVID policies are sports. This is an area, too, that has seen a change in policies since the beginning of the school year. Next, RT reporter Erin Smith gets the opinions of student-athletes on vaccine and mask mandates, along with information regarding new COVID procedures for the winter sports season.
On October 13th, the Frederick County Public Schools Board of Education mandated proof of vaccinations for winter sports athletes. The board set up a testing service that would conduct a weekly COVID test for all unvaccinated athletes. Here is how some Middletown athletes felt about the original plan.
I really don't think it's fair that they get a say in whether or not we have to be vaccinated or not. In order to play sports, sports should be something that you should be able to do regardless of that.
I understand why they made the decision, to have the mandate, but I don't think it's that necessary.
Our MHS athletic director speaks on how the policy affected athlete participation.
Impact did that have? I do know that we had student athletes who chose not to participate because they were not vaccinated and didn't feel comfortable being tested weekly.
During the Board of Education's meeting on Wednesday, December 8th, they considered the public's opinion and voted to repeal the original policy based on these factors. I talked with Sam Stars, the Frederick County student member of the board, about why the policy was changed.
There was statistically significant flaws in the plan. For example, testing was only happening once a week. So, there were going to be a ton of students who were still going to COVID and not be tested, and they wouldn't be quarantined in time, so they'd spread to the team regardless. And then there were a bunch of parent concerns over bullying and the unvaccinated being singled out from their classmates, and then student medical privacy being at risk, and they didn't know what the companies would do with the student medical information, etc. And then, like I said, so that the parent concerns coupled with the actual effectiveness of the plan just determined, all right, it's not worth it.
The new policy makes vaccines optional and dismisses the weekly testing for the time being. The board claims they are exploring options to reinstate the weekly testing on a voluntary basis. MHS athletes share their opinion on the new policy.
It's a new policy change because I think before the required testing caused students a lot of anxiety, and now they can be a little more free of worry.
I think it's for the best, just so there's less positive cases and we all have more playing time and we don't have to stop for quarantining.
The very vocal group that opposed the policy was very happy and got lots of thanks from them. But then there also have been groups of parents and groups of students who have now spoken up and said, hey, why'd you redo the policy? We liked it. But overall, I think my perception was that the majority of students and parents, they were in favor of the policy, but ultimately they didn't really care about it. They were willing to support it, but it didn't really affect them. So I think that's still the case, and I think most people are just kind of saying whatever,
The Board of Education revoked their original plan on December 8th in the middle of the first week of winter sporting events. Athletes share their opinion on the timing of the policy change.
They probably should have told us earlier rather than the night before the testing was going to take place, because I know for track at least the coaches were not happy with everyone who hadn't signed up for testing and how that would affect our meet on Friday.
I didn't like how they changed it right before our first meets and stuff. I think it would have been better to give athletes more time to be prepared.
Sam Stars explains why the Board of Education made their decision at the time they did.
Part of it was no one made the motion because they didn't think that there would be enough support to pass it, but ultimately it was I think 6-1 vote, so It passed pretty easy.
Despite the unexpected change in policy, athletes and coaches adapted to the new policy.
Pretty much everyone on the team is excited about the change in policy so they don't have to get tested every week.
I'm vaccinated, so it doesn't affect me on whether or not I need to get tested or not, so I'm feeling pretty safe.
I feel pretty safe considering that we have the choice whether or not to participate, and it's just like the risk that we have to take.
If you thought building a gingerbread house was all just holiday fun, think again. Finally, RT reporter Lauren Walker gives us an inside look into the FFA's Gingerbread House contest in the style of Netflix's Nailed It.
On December 17th, members of the Middletown FFA chapter participated in a gingerbread house decorating contest. This contest was inspired by the Netflix show Nailed It. Let's meet the contestants.
The goats. Or the SMC builders. Sharks.
The naughty list.
Like that. Yep. Perfect.
Snowflake.
FFA President Brianna Bongard explains how the contest works and why they decided to host it.
We started to brainstorm some ideas for a fun, holiday-themed social. And, a couple people were thinking about, the Nailed It show, which is what the contest is modeled after. So we were just sort of thinking of ideas that everybody could do, and that would be fun for everybody. So that's how we decided on the gingerbread decorating contest. So one of the previous graduates of Middletown has graciously, I'll say, donated a gingerbread house that she professionally decorated. So all of the teams are modeling their houses after that one. And then we prepared a score sheet for the judges, and they're basically going to be judged on how closely they follow that model and how neat their house is in addition to how it's built.
Hi, my name's Natalie Hayes. I'm the owner of Natty Cakes Bakery, LLC in Frederick, Maryland. I'm here today to judge the gingerbread houses here. I made the presentation, first one, that everybody's trying to mimic. I started my bakery at the beginning of this year, and then just finally legalized it and started the LLC.
Now let's hear from our judges with regards to their criteria when scoring the gingerbread houses.
Structurally, it's one of the most important things. You don't want to go to pick it up to move it and it just knocks right over. That, and then just cleanliness is the most thing.
I guess I'm going to look at the good one and see which one best matches that. And I'm hoping for some epic disasters because those are always fun too.
I expect perfection from my students. I'm expecting perfection from these students. Is it realistic? No. Will it help them in the future? They won't remember it at all. But it's fun for me.
After an hour of building, it was finally time for the judges to critique and score the different gingerbread houses. The judges asked the teams to walk them through their process and what some of their different strategies were when building. When it was all said and done, the judges clearly had a winner.
The Blizzard!
As a prize, the winner received a box of Krispy Kreme donuts.
What a fun and extravagant competition. That's it for this episode of RT Magazine, part of the Roundtable's multimedia experience. Thanks for watching. You can find all our episodes on mhsroundtable.com, or you can download our app, Student News Source, for access to our articles, videos, and podcasts. Have a great week.